So let's talk about the psychology behind the culture. So I've mentioned before, you don't have to have a psychology degree and you don't have to be a sports psychology instructor to have psychology background, to have a psychology background. But what's the psychology behind the culture? So long time ago, I started teaching sports psychology in high school. And one of the first questions I ask on day one is, can everyone agree with me that sports is 90% mental and 10% physical? And for the most part, everyone agrees. It may vary from 80-20, but 90-10, everyone agrees. So then once I get them to all agree to that phrase, yeah, football is 90% mental and it's 10% physical. Yeah. So then I stop and I ask them, well, then why do you spend 100% of the time on the 10%? And I just stare at them like I'm doing now. And it doesn't really hit. This may not hit you till later. You may have to rewind and then watch it again. What is that? What does that even mean? Why are we spending 100% of the time? We're doing extra reps in practice, and none of these are wrong. They make up 10%. We're lifting more. We're going 7 days a week. We're doing 2 lifts a day. I'm studying my playbook 42 hours a day. I'm doing all these things that make no sense. But who is training my brain? That's the psychology behind the culture. So how does it start? First thing is you have to know your kids. You have to know your athletes. There's no way you can know your athletes if you don't talk to them, if you don't visit with them, if you're not hanging out after practice for a little bit. That's one of the things I love. And this was all organic at the first place we were at. The coaches just hung out. They hung out, they talked with the kids, they built bonds, and they just hung out. And I always remember being so tired. I'm like, I just want to leave. But I didn't know the kids. And at that first school, there weren't hallways. It was a university style school. So you couldn't just go walk in the hallways or go meet them at lunch because they ate lunch outdoors. So it was just different. So I really wanted to make sure that I learned each player. And that's something that you have to do. Now, here's where probably most of you will feel convicted. Everyone knows their stars. But do you know the guy who's not going to play at all for the first 2 years of your program? What do you know about him? Do you even care about him? Don't say you do if you don't know anything about him. You haven't talked to him. You haven't developed him. You haven't forecasted with them. You know, I'm thinking of all these names that are popping through my head right now. But the question is, hey, can you imagine what's going to be like when you're the starting linebacker your junior year? No, coach, because I don't play. That's okay. You're going to learn. The psychology behind the culture starts with an open door policy. Now, I don't have this for parents. I talk a little bit about this in the book, but I don't expound. I don't do this for parents. I do this for kids. Okay, right now my door is closed. Okay, so no one's going to come in here. But if my door was opened and this was a school day, people would be in and out. And they have that freedom because I want to get to know them, but also it gives them a comfortable level. If something is wrong or they're struggling with it, they'll feel more comfortable to talk to us. Well, if I have an open door policy, my coaches have the same policy. And that policy is just tell us. You know, maybe you can't come tell me, maybe you're afraid because I'm the head coach, but I want you to tell your coordinator. I want you to tell your position coach. I want you to celebrate, and I also want you to go through the struggles and tell us what you're struggling with. The next thing is the psychology matters because, and this happens again in the Built Different summer, because I'm going to be there. I'm there. I am in on the Built Different summer. I don't really have to be much of an athletic director in the summer. So I get to throw all those hats to the side and I get to get in there with these kids and I get to see them. And we always can go back and reference, hey, you know what? This is a tough part. I know you're not feeling good. I know you're really sore. But man, do you remember that obstacle course we did in RST? Do you remember when you had to do it 3 times back to back and you didn't quit? I do remember, coach. Well, this is nothing. That's the psychology behind it. And what it becomes, you hear this a lot in coaching clinics. What it becomes is we're eliminating a transactional relationship. And I'm going to come back to that part. And we're making it a transformational relationship. So I do a ton of stuff with Blue Gray, the Blue Gray All-American Bowl. I've been with them for over a decade. I've coached a ton of games. I get to talk to high school kids every year. We play our games at Cowboy Stadium. So there's 2 games a year we play at Cowboy Stadium where I coach. And I get to talk to these guys, not nearly as much as I'd like because it's a couple of practices and a game. But some of them I'll talk to afterwards and then continue a relationship as I help them with college. But I'll ask them, have you ever asked your head coach to do this? And I'm going to tell you, without accurate research, almost every single kid answers, oh, our head coach doesn't do that. I can't meet with my head coach. One of my former players left here, God called him somewhere else, and he kept calling me and asking me for help with something. And I said his name and I said, listen, you got to ask your head coach. He's like, oh, my head coach won't meet with me. What? You're a starter. No, he doesn't do that. What do you mean he doesn't do that? Did you meet with your coordinator? Well, I've been trying. Okay, that's wrong. So if you're listening to this, you're wrong. You shouldn't be that way. You should be able to talk to your kids and they should be able to talk to you. Now, there has to be boundaries, but you should be able to do that. So when I think about an open door policy, when people ask what changes, Roman and Isaac and I were just talking about one of our players, and I'll say his name. Hopefully he doesn't get in trouble, but his name's Brock Holton. Brock Holton was the antithesis of an open door policy for me. And what do I mean by that? He went to school 5 days a week at the university style school. So he went 5 days a week. Most of the kids went 2 days a week. But because of that, he had a lot of time off. And I told him, I said, Brock, you come up here anytime you want. And we learned so much about each other. And then my other coach that was in my office with me, we learned so much. This guy right now he is built different. He can't do it because the job he's going to have, but he should have it across his neck. I mean, he's the antithesis of where this all began. This dude, sorry, Brock, had 2 left feet. I'm like, this dude is not going to play football for us. But man, he works hard. He became one of the strongest. He is one of the smartest. He did tutoring. He talked to kids in the hallway. He went all throughout the school. He got us 20 more players. Now, mind you, they never played football before, but we got 20 more players just from the school. He didn't go out and do what a lot of these schools do and illegally recruit. He just recruited the kids in the halls. And here was the thing. He completely shifted when he knew AGAT, all you got all the time, was all we ask for. And he's like, Coach, I can do that. I may not be able to do this and this and this and this, but I can do that. Well, guess what? He's a college football player now, and he can do all those things because he gave AGAT and he got instruction. He worked harder than everyone else. He was a get there before and a leave after type of guy. And he probably still is at where he's at in college right now. So when you think about open doors, those are the things that open the relationships with you. I still have a relationship with players I coached in 2008. In 2008. Now, do I hang out with them? Do we text as much? No. But I still have a relationship. I get invited to weddings all the time. I just can't make them all. We get invited to baby showers, all these different things. I can't believe how many kids have had babies now. But the point behind that is if I was just a transactional coach, hey, I need you today. Football season's over. I don't need you anymore. Go away. Then who am I really helping? I'm helping my resume, which isn't going to help much because I'm not developing players. Now, my final word on psychology, this kind of, I remember this, and I won't use his name, but I had a coach, and I noticed he hadn't been a coordinator before, and he's going through a real tough stretch at practice. And I'm like, man, we don't have enough chaos out here. There needs to be chaos like a game. So in the middle of practice, I stop it down and I yell 2-minute drill. And I start counting 159, 158, 157, and I'm counting down. And the coach is like, what? This isn't on the script. 155, 154. And he's like, ah. And I start running a stopwatch like it's a game. And I completely flipped it. And at the end, he wasn't irritated. He figured it out because we always say every move is calculated. I just told him, I said, hey, coach, you're not ready. If you're not ready, that's my fault. If your position group is not ready, that's your fault. But you're not ready. So if you're not ready, your side of the ball is not ready. If your side of the ball is not ready, your players aren't ready. So that's on me. So I call that operating in chaos at a high level so normal is easy. Let that sink in. That's what the military does to us. The military trains us. There's stuff I learned a long time ago, I'm not going to date myself, in the military that I still know today. I'm going to give you an example. I used to be in the corporate world before I sold out to full-time coaching, which, by the way, that's a big sacrifice, but it's worth it. So my wife has taken the youngins to school and she's backing out of the driveway and I'm carrying the trash bags to the curb, and I'm so happy because it's my first day as an executive at this company that we started with 12 guys. And my wife kind of looks down at my leg and her eyes get big. Well, I look down and I've slit my leg open on a broken jar, jelly jar, I don't know what it was. Sliced my leg open. It's gushing. It's not dripping, it's gushing blood. The first thing I do is I finish my mission. I put the trash on the curb because that was my mission. I go inside, I do a tourniquet, and I start to get this wound in order. Okay, I hadn't been in the military at that point in decades, but I knew what to do. And that training that they gave me, that reprogramming that they gave me, still helps today. I didn't miss my meeting. I wasn't late. And that night we went out and had a celebration. The company celebrated us. My wound busts open. I get two napkins, tie them together, make another tourniquet under my suit so I don't continue to bleed. Why do I tell you that? If we train these guys and girls like this in the summer and they are reprogrammed, then their defaults are always the defaults we programmed into them. If you're programming bad defaults, that's on you. If you're programming good defaults, that's on you. So your fruit will always be able to be seen. Are you giving good fruit or are you growing bad fruit? Because a tree, it's in the Bible, a tree can't grow good and bad fruit. An apple tree will never grow an orange, no matter how hard you try. So that's the thing that you have to understand. And then my final thing on psychology is if you don't have a degree in it, just watch your kids. Some of them want to be screamed at. They want to be boot camped. They want to be drill instructored. And some of them, if you do that, you will never get them back. Some of them need to be loved. And sometimes that's hard because you're like, I don't want to love you right now. You're irritating. But they want to be loved. So you got to love them. And some of them just want to know what to do and be left alone. You got to learn your players.